Finally, we get to our wrestling rewind. And this week is WrestleMania 9. And
WrestleMania 9.
we're at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas, Nevada. And Gorilla Monsoon is introduced as our host. Monsoon says it's the world's largest toga party, and he can get used to wearing one. And then he introduces us to a bright young addition to the WWF announce team, Mr. Jim Ross.
Good old JR.
Jim Ross says that it is indeed his first WrestleMania and that he's from Oklahoma and he loves wearing togas too, especially the gold shoes. And then Ross points to a centurion and boasts about how good a shape the dude's in, even though he's wearing bronze abs. And then Ross says, we have two main events of the evening. It's Bret Hart versus the 500-pound Yokozuna for the WWF title, and then the Mega Maniacs versus Money Inc. for the tag team titles. And Ross kicks it to Finkel, who is now known today as Fincus Maximus. Finkel introduces Caesar and Cleopatra. Caesar and Cleo come out riding an elephant. The elephant does a trick while Caesar and Cleo parade around the ring, and you never see them again.
Nor should you. But,
True.
But Cleopatra had them things on her, though.
And she sure did.
I was like, who is this? I didn't Google it, but I was thinking about it.
So then Macho Man's introduced, and then some guy drags out a llama first. Savage is carried out in a sedan, and then Ross, he talks to Savage, who says that it's a lock and load type situation. He wants everyone to have a good time. Also that the grapes were great and the chicks were cool. And then we learned that Bobby Heenan was supposed to be carried on a sedan that Macho Man was riding, but Savage stole it. And Heenan, he's later coming out on a camel. He's riding it backwards. Ross says Heenan looks terrified. Savage says he's riding it the wrong way, and this day's not going to be good for Bobby the Brain. And Savage calls Heenan a loser. It's WrestleMania 9, and it doesn't get any bigger. Then Heenan flops off the camel, and then Savage takes the opportunity to lift Heenan's toga to reveal blue panties. And Ross and Savage proceed to tell Heenan that he smells like a camel. And then Savage says, it's WrestleMania 9. Do your thing if you got the guts. And then we get to Shawn Michaels versus Tatanka, which is really interesting. They didn't do the anthem or America the Beautiful.
They didn't, because they were doing this toga thing, the opening ceremonies, which took 8 minutes.
Okay. Tatanka and Shawn Michaels is for the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship, and this is when Jim Ross is on commentary for the first time at WrestleMania. So Michaels, he's singing his music now, so we only get one WrestleMania where Sherry was doing it. And Luna Vachon is with Michaels, which is fucking awesome. And I wondered what happened to Sherry, but there she is. After Tatanka makes his entrance, they say she has no allegiance to him, but she stands right in his corner and proceeds to cheer him on. So I don't know what they mean by no allegiance.
And they did like a nod or something he did with her.
Yeah, they were totally in cahoots.
Yeah.
And Tatanka is still undefeated at this point, and he already has 2 non-title victories over Michaels. At least that's what they said on commentary. And this was just a classic speed versus strength match. Michaels' interactions with Sherry were hilarious. There's a part where Michaels seems to have Tatanka beat. Then he goes for a double axe handle from the top rope. And then that's when Tatanka starts doing his little Indian Hulk up thing. And there's lots of near falls in this match. It's kind of reminded me of Macho Man and Steamboat.
With the near falls? I kind of got that too, yeah.
I thought the crossbody into the power slam was it. So both guys, they end up fighting into the outside, and Michaels, he tries to hit a crossbody from the ring apron, but he misses, and he goes face first into the steel steps. And then he proceeds to drag the referee out of the ring before he can count to 10. Michaels tries to get the advantage on Tatanka, but he gets caught but with a Samoan drop. Then the ref, he was all into it up to this point, decides now's the time to ring the bell. Just like as Tatanka makes the cover. Tatanka is announced as the winner as a result of a countout, but the belt does not change hands. And then Tatanka celebrates like an idiot. And then Luna beats the shit out of Sherry, which I think was the best part of the match, to be honest with you. And then Heenan said it should have happened to Sherry 6 months ago. And then we learned that Luna later attacks Sherry at the first aid station.
I will say, first of all, what a downgrade. Sherry to Luna Vachon. Just in the looks department only. Downgrade there. But I guess you just needed more muscle if you're Shawn Michaels.
She's more sadistic.
Now, she's great. I'm just saying, And then there was a moment where Tatanka goes for this double axe handle, gets caught in a super kick, and I think they called it a martial arts kick on commentary. But it wasn't Shawn's move yet, so it wasn't the end of the match. But now that would have been the end of the match, but it wasn't.
Well, no, it would have been a near fall, and Shawn Michaels would have looked surprised.
And yeah, Tatanka, I don't know if he's in the Hall of Fame, but he definitely could be a Hall of Famer.
Really?
Tatanka.
From 2
Yeah,
matches?
I was thinking he didn't last long, but he made an impact. And that's what you want in your Hall of Fame.
What kind of impact?
I don't know. I remember him. Hey, 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 hey. And then and then he's doing the thing around the ring. He's chopping his hands and
I am impressed that he does that little dance.
yeah, he was getting it going. Now, his Hulk up wasn't as good as Hulk's, obviously.
Oh, of course not.
Reason is because he did his Hulk up, but then Shawn Michaels got like advantage again. But you know,
Right.
when he hulks up, that's pretty much
Oh, yeah.
you might as well head to the back because it's over.
Just lay down on the mat.
Yeah.
Make it easy on yourself. According to Wikipedia, Tatanka is not in any Hall of Fame.
I would say he's a Hall of Famer.
Okay.
But yeah, good match. Those are just my little things.
It was decent. I liked seeing Luna. I enjoyed her. I remember in the video game, she did the moonsault.
Yeah, I remember her from the Raw NES game. Boy, that was a good game.
It was.
I need to play that again. Part of
one of
our
my
retro
favorite games.
division, we play retro games, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite games of all time.
I liked it, but just thinking about it right now, I remember when you had to do your finishers and stuff and you had to like tap the R button. I wasn't no pussy. I didn't use a turbo controller. Like I was really tapping. So my forearms just like are tired thinking about that.
Fair
Like,
enough.
these kids don't know what it was like back in the day where you actually had to tap buttons to go move faster. It wasn't any like one button turbo touch.
You don't have save states.
Oh yeah, that too. You had to leave the game on all day if you wanted to.
You're right.
Leave it on so when you get home from school you can continue.
I hope to God that your parents don't shut your shit off.
Or it doesn't freeze.
But anything else to add with Shawn and Tatanka?
Nope. Good
All right.
start to the card.
Yep. And it seems like there's something set up with Luna and Sherry at some point. I don't know if we'll see it, but the hints are there. So Mean Gene talks to the Steiner brothers after this, and Gene also loves wearing a toga because he says so. And Scott says that they're excited for their first WrestleMania. It might be their first WrestleMania, but it'll be one to be remembered. Rick says the head shrinkers are unpredictable, but the Steiners have a game plan, and they're just going to do what they do best: wrestle and make Julius Caesar proud.
Sure, buddy.
So the head shrinkers versus the Steiner brothers are on deck. Rikishi and Scott Steiner start things off, which I have to say, wow. And there wasn't a lot of flips in this one. Just a lot of thuds and smacks and hits and punches and clotheslines. At one point, it was fantastic. At one point, like all the Samoans got outside the ring and headbutted each other really hard. So that was fun. Steiners, they hit a double clothesline from the top rope, which I thought one of them was going to fall. I don't understand how the rope withstood all that weight. Scott, he got dumped on the outside and Offa just nailed the shit out of him with that kendo stick thing. And it was pretty much all she wrote for Scott because he pretty much took all the offense after that. And at one point, Rikishi rams Scott face first in the ring post, and it looks like the Steiners are in trouble, right? Scott tries to fire back up a couple times. Each time that Scott fires back up, the Samoans just cut his ass off.
Yeah, you can't get anything going.
Rikishi misses a diving headbutt, giving Scott a chance to make a hot tag. And then the head shrinkers, they stop Rick with a double headbutt and then a double Jeff Jarrett stroke. And then the head shrinkers, they go for a crossbody on the shoulders, and Rick reverses it, I think, into a pinning combination. But what I saw was Rick and Rikishi almost dying.
Yeah, basically, he was in the doomsday position. Rikishi jumps to do a crossbody while he's sitting on, who is it, Alpha?
Samu and Fatu.
Yeah, so he goes for the flying crossbody, and in midair, by the way, Steiner catches him and turns it into a power slam off of the shoulder. Like, what the hell did I just see?
I don't know. It looked like one of them's neck just landed straight on the mat. It was crazy.
Yeah, I watched it a couple times because I couldn't believe what I just saw. It's like one of those things you never see before, you'll never see again. But it did look pretty clean, though.
About as clean as you can get, I'd say.
Yeah. As close as you can get from getting crossbodied and spinning on someone's shoulders to a power slam.
Right. So after that, Scott gets a blind tag, and then he gets his ass whooped for a little bit, and then he hits an awkward-looking Frankensteiner out of nowhere for the win. And then Bobby wants to see a replay. Savage and Ross, they both say, no, you don't get to see a replay. And I'm starting to understand why Scott started doing the Frankensteiner from the top rope.
And I was saying, we've seen this Frankensteiner twice now. To be the master of the Frankensteiner, and neither one of these looks too good.
Well, to be fair, that wasn't Scott's fault. That was Rikishi's fault.
Was it? Did you see
Yeah.
how early he jumped? He jumped. It looked like he was going for a drop kick. How early he jumped. Like, as soon as Rikishi hit the ropes, he was in the air. So, I think he jumped too early.
It looked like Scott did the flip, and then Rikishi's like, oh, yeah, I got a flip too.
I don't know. I think he jumped too early.
Fair enough.
Because then he got him with the end of his feet and then did the flip. Yeah.
I wasn't really paying attention to the setup. I know he threw him into the ropes. I mean, I really didn't see anything unusual about how he jumped. Maybe you're right. I'm not going to say you're not. But what I did pay attention to was the actual Frankensteiner. And I know Scott flipped. Maybe he flipped fast. Don't know. I've never done a Frankensteiner. But I do know that Rikishi was late on his flip. The timing was off. Either way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the Steiners at WrestleMania.
Like I said, I enjoyed the match. Hard hitting.
It was awesome.
There was a lot of moments where it was like they were just killing each other in a good way. That one spot where they did like the hot shot and then Scott Steiner hit the ropes and fell out of the ring right before the kendo stick spot. That was great.
Yeah, it looked like he died.
Yeah. And then, like you said, that moment where the head shrinkers, they had to get like rededicated to the match. So they go outside and they get the meeting of the minds, which like refocuses them. And then also, the whole time they were selling that you can't hurt our heads. There was a point where Rick Steiner came in off the hot tag. He did the meeting of the minds, and they just like looked at him after. And even before it, Heenan was like, "That ain't gonna work." So yeah, all in all, great match.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Pretty interesting to see how the Samoans are portrayed these days versus how they will be. They're prettier. All right, so Mean Gene is next, and he talks to Doink. And Gene is pissed off because he personally witnessed Doink desecrating the visage of the great Julius Caesar. They were really on his nuts, weren't they?
Yeah, they had to keep pumping it.
They pumped it, they did. Gene says that he's seen a lot of sick shit from Doink. Water in kids' faces, pies in kids' faces. But the most disgusting act of them all was when he tried to apologize to Crush with an apparent arm injury and attacked him from behind. So they play a video of Doink apologizing with an obviously fake arm in a sling. And then Doink gives Crush a flower. Crush turns to walk away. And as Crush is slapping hands with the fans, Doink pulls out his fake arm and then starts beating Crush to death with it. They cut to looks of horror on the kids' faces. And then they cut back to Doink, who's laughing like a schoolgirl, and he claims that to be bringing a sense of humor back to the WWF. Mean Gene says Crush might be getting the last laugh since Doink thoroughly pissed him off. But then Doink says after WrestleMania, Crush will be seeing double vision. So Crush and Doink the Clown is next. And the match starts off with Crush beating the piss out of Doink. It looked unfair. It looked like it was going to be over quickly. But then Doink pulls Crush out of the ring and tries to pummel him, but he gets no success. So Crush continues his assault. Savage at one point says, he isn't going to go for the victory. He's going for the pain factor. He's doing it for all the kids around the world. So then Doink, he finally gets in control and proceeds to do a bunch of diving punches from the top rope. And Doink hits Crush with a pile driver, and it looked like Crush's head was like a foot out of Doink's legs. Doink goes for a crossbody, but Crush catches him and turns into a power slam, which seems to be like a go-to move for everybody, especially the big guys. And then Doink gets dumped out of the ring, and he starts to crawl under it, but then Crush stops him and puts him back in the ring. He hits Doink with a military press, and he goes for his Kona Crush. And then Doink, he gets his foot on the ropes, and as they release the hold, there's a ref bump. So the ref's out, and then Doink, he tries to crawl in the ring again, and then Crush stops him again. And then Crush hits a weird spin kick, and then locks the Kona Crush again. And then Doink, he finally gets in control and proceeds to do a bunch of diving punches from the top rope. And Doink, he gets in control and proceeds to do a bunch of diving punches from the top rope. And Doink, he finally gets in control and proceeds to do a bunch of diving punches from the top rope. And Doink, he finally gets in control and proceeds to do a bunch of diving punches from the top rope. And Doink, he finally gets in control and proceeds to do a bunch of diving punches from the top rope. And Doink, he finally gets in control and proceeds to do a bunch of diving punches from the top rope. And Doink, he finally gets in control and proceeds to do a bunch of diving punches from the top rope. And Doink, he finally gets in control and proceeds to do a bunch of diving punches from the top rope. And Doink, he finally gets in control and proceeds to do a bunch of diving punches from the top rope. And Doink, he finally gets in control and proceeds to do a bunch of diving punches from the top rope. And Doink, he finally g And then another Doink just gets in the ring and nails Crush with the fake arm. And this only pisses Crush off. And Crush backs the second Doink into the corner. And then the first Doink grabs Crush's arms. And then Doink number 2 cracks Crush over the skull with the fake arm. So both Doinks, after that, they do like this little mime routine. And then Doink number 2 goes back under the ring. And then Doink number 1 gets the pin because Crush is knocked out from the fake arm.
He got walloped with it the second time.
He sure did. They actually broke it. And this was actually really fun to watch. I want to see more Doink for some reason.
Yeah, early heel Doink. He's great. His mannerisms, they act like he was some psycho.
Right.
Who was hearing voices. And that's why he dressed up as the clown.
And then when he did the serious it face.
Yeah, so he'd come out, he'd laugh, and then he'd turn serious and just like have this dead stare.
I like the music. A little spooky clown music.
Yeah, that was great too. It started out with the dun 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 dun, and then it just goes dark.
After the match, I don't know if Crush is still in it or not, but Doink certainly isn't. Second ref comes out, and he's telling the first ref about the second Doink, that's hiding under the ring. Ref number 1 says, "No fucking way, I gotta see this for myself." So both refs, they go snooping under the ring, and they find that there's no one there. Ref number 2 says, "I swear there was a second Doink." And then ref number 1 says, "Lay off the cocaine, Ryan," I assume.
Well, there were some adult male men who were really into trying to convince ref number 2 that there was a person under the ring. A couple of them were really into it. "Oh, look under there!" Throwing their hands up and pointing. Like, they were really into it.
They were probably really drunk.
Probably.
And then they cuts to some dumb fuck polling fans in the crowd about the matches. Or no, about that match. He asked 2 Japanese fans, of course, if they saw 1 or 2 Doinks. Obviously, they can't speak a lick of English.
Why does he keep running into that situation?
Because it's funny. Then the dumb fuck just blurts Yokozuna, and the Japanese fans laugh and say, "Yokozuna number 1." And then the dumb fuck says some more dumb fuck things, and we thankfully get to the next match. For the record, I'm not even going to address his other segments.
That's the last one.
Yeah.
Don't worry. It seemed like it was just like a filler thing.
It absolutely was. He had a nothing thing with Natalie Cole and some other dude. I think he owned the Caesar's Palace. And then he had another
fucking way too damn long.
Yeah. And then he had another thing where he was pulling more fans, and then they got into a fake wrestling match where they looked like idiots.
Yes.
So there's that. So Razor Ramon and Bob Backlund is actually the match I was looking forward to the most. And Ross and Savage remind us that Vachon royally fucked up Sherry's life in the back, and we're still awaiting further details on the status of Sensational Sherry. And Backlund starts the match by going for a good old-fashioned American handshake, and Razor, he just throws his toothpick at Bob. Bob looks all of 12 years old?
No, he looked old.
Yeah,
he was just white as hell.
I thought he looked like he was 12.
Get a little bit of tan on there.
That too.
They said he was like 45 or 47 at the time, so...
No fucking way.
That's what they said.
He was about 6 or 7. God damn. And what was he doing fighting a man? Razor did child abuse. That wasn't a wrestling match. So yeah, Razor proves to be the stronger of the two. Backlund out wrestles the fuck out of Razor. Man, can Razor throw a punch. You can hear like the smack of the flesh on like every time he throws one. It's great. And at this point, Savage tells us that Bret Hart was knocked out on his ass by Luger at some WrestleMania brunch or something. Ross says he'll be fine. And then I'm like, well, why bring it up then? Especially right now.
They gotta start that loop.
So then Backlund hits Razor with a giant atomic drop and then dumps him back into the ring the hard way. And then Razor gets a small package out of nowhere for the win. And I was actually kind of disappointed.
Yeah, it seems like it was over before it really got started, but Razor Ramon pinned the wrestler with a wrestling move, as Heenan said.
It was just very anticlimactic.
Yeah. I mean, I was disappointed I didn't get to see a Razor's Edge.
That too. I'm disappointed I didn't get to see a crossface chicken wing and a drop toe hold.
Yeah, he didn't get to do too much wrestling.
And a Thez press.
Yeah, he looked like he was out of the early WrestleMania 1 days with all that trunks and like no
he looked like he was out of
all.
All-Star Wrestling.
Yeah, and they said he's been around, but this was actually his first WrestleMania. So
it was his first WrestleMania.
Yeah, he wasn't at 1, 2, 3, all the other ones.
Yeah. which is sad. Because Bob, at one point, he was slated to be the replacement for Bruno.
Well, he does have a unnecessarily long run, so this was clearly after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Mean Gene is talking to Money Inc., and Gene says that he has got to believe that Money Inc.'s title reign is in jeopardy, and that's for 3 reasons. 1, the return of the immortal Hulk Hogan. 2, he's teaming up with Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Oh, and they're also backed by their former manager, Jimmy Hart. And Gene says, you guys asked for all of this after all. And then they cut to a Monday Night Raw. IRS is about to take Beefcake out with his Halliburton attaché case, while DiBiase holds Beefcake's arms back. And then Jimmy Hart is pleading with IRS to stop it. And then IRS tosses him out of the ring like an old whore. And IRS shatters Beefcake's face. And then Jimmy Hart crawls to Beefcake. Gene says he was shocked. And Hogan, he was sitting at home, couldn't believe it either. And then DiBiase says that they've been crying for weeks. Time to put up or shut up. This is Caesar's Palace, where the stakes are always high. And that's how Money Inc. likes it. Because the bigger the stakes, the bigger the bankroll you win. And we don't make bets we can't win. This is our backyard. What's the odds of beating a dog in his backyard? Our IRS says the mega morons have all the answers. Beefcake has a protective mask. Because remember that Beefcake had that parasailing incident and he was retired. Yeah. So I guess that's what this is all about. So I guess he's coming out of retirement.
Okay.
So he's coming out of retirement and
he still has to wear the mask to protect his face.
Yeah, he's got to wear the mask, but he's bringing Hulk Hogan back out of retirement too. So it's 2 retirees versus the tag champions. One has a broken face.
And one has whatever the hell happened to Hogan's eye.
So IRS says that we don't give a shit about any of that. We don't give a shit about his mask or his face. We're going to take it off and we're going to beat his face into oblivion. And oh, we heard Hogan got into an accident coming out of the gym last night as well. That's what money can do. If you think Beefcake's face looks bad, wait till you see Hogan's. Then DiBiase laughs maniacally. The Mean Gene, he doesn't quite follow, but kicks it back to Fincus Maximus. Okay, so that brings us to Money Inc. versus the Mega Maniacs. Ross doesn't know what the fuck IRS was talking about with the issues with Hogan. And he says he talked to DiBiase, and DiBiase got stuck in an accident or something. He vouched for his whereabouts. Then Beefcake comes out, and he's wearing the stupid mask, and he has his shears. And Hogan comes out with a black eye, literally, and a couple stitches. It looked like a little demon eye.
Yeah, it did not look good.
I think this was the debut of Hogan with the pants.
I think so, yeah. And the cowboy boots.
Yeah, and the cowboy boots. So the kayfabe story is that Money Inc. attacked Hogan while he was coming out of the gym. So that's why his eye is all fucked up. The company line was that he was in a jet ski accident and his eye got fucked up. Legend is that Hogan fucked Miss Elizabeth, so Savage fucked Hogan's face up.
Oh my.
Now, if that's true, Savage didn't sell it at all on commentary.
I know, what a professional.
So the match starts off just like last year with Hogan fighting his opponent while his music plays, and again stopping only when Hogan rips off his shirt and poses.
I was ready for it this time. I was expecting it. I was needing it.
You were needing it?
Yeah. I was like, oh, they can't get the upper hand. They started fighting back. Oh, here we go. Here comes the shirt.
Well, Beefcake starts off the match, and it's established early on that he can't feel pain on the very small area of his face where the mask is covering it. So naturally, DiBiase and IRS only try to attack that small area of his face. Hogan gets tagged in and then just beats the fuck out of DiBiase. Then Hogan and Beefcake, they give DiBiase a couple double T moves, a big boot and something else. I can't remember what the other one was. Babyface Hogan threatens to assault Hebner and then pokes IRS blatantly in the eyes. Vintage Hogan! Then Money Inc. get dumped on the outside of the ring and then they just say fuck this and they start to leave. After some confusion, it's announced that if Money Inc. doesn't get back to the ring by the 10 count, they lose the match and they forfeit their titles. Heenan, rightfully pissed off because they just made up the rules as they went along, is like, what the fuck? So Money Inc., after brief deliberation, they beat the 10 count and DiBiase gets the advantage on Hogan. DiBiase and IRS, they start taking turns choking Hogan with a cord in front of the ref. The ref's just like, 1, 2, dumbass. DiBiase locks Hogan in the $1 Million Dream and it looks like Hogan's out, but then Hogan briefly fights out of it but fails. Then Beefcake saves Hogan by locking in the sleeper hold on DiBiase. So now DiBiase and Hogan, they're both out. Hebner tumbles over DiBiase and then starts, making the 10 count. And Hogan sits up like the Undertaker. Savage even said so.
He sure did.
To beat the 10 count. He tried to do it slick too. Come on, Hogan. Tried to play it off like, oh, I'm shaking my head. I'm
Yeah, I
dazed.
did think it was out of place that he sat up like the Undertaker.
Right. I know what you're trying to do. He tried to get the Undertaker pop.
I like that move, brother. I'm going to use it.
I'd prefer it if you didn't. No, I'm going to use it.
It's kind of my thing. It's okay, brother. The Hulkamaniacs are going to love it.
So then Beefcake, he fucks up Money Inc. by himself until DiBiase hits Beefcake with the Halliburton attaché case. And then DiBiase ends up ripping Beefcake's mask off, and the face is revealed. And then their face-related offense actually works, because they didn't stop doing that at all. Beefcake manages to hit a double clothesline, then gets IRS in a sleeper hold. Of course, DiBiase breaks it up, but Hebner is bumped in the process. For some reason, both teams did the crawling tag spot while Hebner was unconscious. That made no sense to me. Like, why didn't just assume you tagged? You get in the lines that have the rope things, and there's nobody there, so you could, walk around it.
Like, you don't have to go down this.
Yeah. At some point, you don't have to follow the rules precisely.
Yeah.
So Hogan beats the shit out of IRS and DiBiase. Then he nails both of them with Beefcake's mask. Titanium mask, by the way. And then both Hogan and Beefcake, they cover a man like idiots while the referee's out. Then Jimmy Hart, he says, that doesn't matter. He turns his jacket inside out and reveals that it's zebra striped. And then he counts the pin himself. And Heenan's like, that doesn't count. Well, maybe it does. I don't know what they're doing tonight. Then Hart gives Hogan and Beefcake the title belts, and the good guys, they celebrate. Then another referee comes out to award Money Inc. the win. And Hogan and Beefcake go to kick the new referee's ass, but Money Inc. saved the innocent guy. And then Beefcake goes to assault the referee, but Hart stops him so he can dump him out himself. So after assaulting two men with titanium mask and assaulting an innocent referee, Hogan and Beefcake, they do what they do best. Pose, pose, pose. Then they give Money Inc.'s money away.
Yep. That segment lasted 5 minutes. The pose downs, by the way. The pose
You
down
timed
went
it?
on. Yes. Because
Okay.
I just felt like this is really going on. And then I just looked at the time. And then I was like, let me see how long this actually went on.
According to Wikipedia,
I mean, I was into it.
You were?
I was. They were doing the strut. Like, I don't know, Brutus, he kept wanting Hogan to do a strut for some reason. Then he did it. And then, yeah, they were just doing the posing. And it's like, you didn't even win the titles.
Right.
What a bunch of idiots. And yeah, they go through the briefcase. They find a brick. They find some papers. And then they find money. And they start giving out the money. All the while the music is still playing. And then they get back in the ring and post some more.
Because that's the most important part.
What was funny, though, is Hogan finds the money. The crowd really starts going crazy at this point because they're like, oh, you're going to give us money. And what does he do? He throws it on the ground so he can post some more.
Yeah, I thought he wasn't going to give it out.
Yeah. I was like, oh, he's teasing him so he can post some more. You don't need this, brothers.
But yeah, Money Inc. are still the champions. I thought the whole Jimmy Hart thing was very convoluted. I don't know why Hogan shit always has to be convoluted.
My one thing I didn't like about the match was the fact that Brutus was the hot tag. Like, why was he the hot tag?
Why is he hot anything?
Yeah. That was my one little nitpick, but aside from that, yeah, it was just a typical Hogan match, get his ass beat until he hulks up, but he didn't hulk up.
And then there's a ref bump and shenanigans happen. Well, after that, Mean Gene talks to Mr. Perfect. Gene says that we're talking about a man that does everything, well, perfectly. But what about your opponent who calls himself the narcissist and has been knocking people out left and right with his controversial forearm? He even knocked WWF champion Bret Hart clean out with it. So is it a big deal or not a big deal? Is it going to affect the match that we're going to see later?
I guess they were setting up like a future match or something. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know why they kept mentioning it, but then, yeah. Bret Hart, you couldn't even tell that it happened.
Right. So Mr. Perfect says, Luger calls himself a knockout artist, the narcissist. You call yourself above perfection. You hit Bret Hart with a cheap shot at the breakfast benefit. I like how he said breakfast benefit. You carry a mirror around with you. I'm on a roll, Gene. I just hit a hole in one, and I'm hot at the tables. Mr. Perfect is exactly who he says he is. Perfect. And Mr. Perfect is about to land the linguistic death blow, but he can't say narcissist Lex Luger. And Gene says he wants to go to the tables with Perfect. And next is Lex Luger versus Mr. Perfect. And Luger comes out looking like $1 million. He doesn't look as bulky as he did last WrestleMania.
Yeah, it definitely came down on that.
The scantily clad women holding the mirror and the sparklers for him was a simple but nice touch. Just like Savage, I didn't pay much attention to Luger after they made their presence known.
Yeah, cheeks were everywhere.
Yes, it was great. So yeah, it starts off with Perfect pretty much dominating. He chops the shit out of Luger at one point, and the crowd cheers. And then Perfect stops to cup his ear, which I thought was nice. And yeah, he out wrestles the shit out of Luger until Lex finally gets his in. Luger tries to get a pin with his feet on the ropes, but the ref sees it. Pretty much all Perfect throughout the rest of the match. He tries to hit Luger with a backslide, but Luger blocks it. And then Luger counters it into a backslide of his own. But Perfect gets his feet on the ropes, but the ref doesn't see this one. Apparently, there's no Weasley ref to come out for Perfect's defense, so Luger wins. And then Luger nails Perfect with the running forearm and poses over him. After a couple minutes, Perfect comes to and realizes what happened. He goes to chase Luger to the back. He finds Luger standing in this garage thing.
A storage unit? I don't know what the hell it was.
A shack. He's talking to Shawn Michaels, and then Perfect starts whooping Luger's ass, and then Michaels attacks Perfect from behind. And then he starts hitting him with some boxes and an empty trash can, which Ross says it was a metal trash can. It wasn't. And then the cameras leave the brawl and cut back to the commentary booth, who are shocked, and Savage almost decks Heenan. I forgot what they got into a fight about.
I think they were fighting over if Luger cheated. Perfect got his foot on the ropes or not, which he did. I like the little touch. So he gets his foot on the ropes. After the match, he's trying to complain to the ref. And I like the little touch that Luger just went and knocked him out so he couldn't talk anymore. Or at least
Luger's
that's what I
great.
picked up on. He's over here complaining to the ref, and before this goes too far, I'm just going to knock you out.
I just don't get why there's a Weasley ref for one match, but not another.
I don't know.
So Monsoon, he reappears to pimp the last two matches. That would be Giant Gonzalez versus The Undertaker. And then our main event, WWF champion Bret Hitman Hart versus the 500-pound monster Yokozuna. And that leads us to the Giant Gonzalez versus The Undertaker. And Gonzalez is billed at 8 feet tall. And I don't understand why Gonzalez's bodysuit had an ass, but there's fur where the balls should be. I feel like there should be fur on the ass too.
I don't know why he was wearing the whole body.
I don't either.
It was so bizarre.
Yeah. He looked like a Power Ranger villain.
Yeah, like Lord... What was his name?
Zed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be surprising if that's where he actually got it from, because...
Make my monsters grow!
This is around the time the Power Rangers started to get popular. So
The Undertaker comes out on a chariot with the Vulture. It's a nice little visual. And it starts off with the typical Taker stare down, and then Gonzalez just tries to hammer Taker down. And Taker fires back briefly. Gonzalez regains control, then hits Taker in the dick. Taker did his tightrope walk with barely any effect on the Giant, and Gonzalez locks a sleeper hold on Taker. And it looks like Taker's out, but the power of the urn saves him. Then Gonzalez wrecks Taker's ship with the steel steps. The power of the urn helps him with that as well. And then Taker gets Gonzalez comically down on one knee. Like, I don't know what the fuck he was doing with his arms.
yeah, his whole selling was not good.
So when Gonzalez gets on a knee, Harvey Whippleman hits the apron. Taker goes to snatch Whippleman. Harvey throws something into the ring. Gonzalez, he recovers it. He grabs the something and then headbutts the shit out of Paul Bearer. And then Gonzalez, he covers Taker's face with the cloth. It turns out to be chloroform. And the announcers are sure to let us know how much it smells.
And they can smell it from there.
They can smell it from there.
In
It
the open air.
stinks. Such a powerful aroma. We better get out of here. We'll all pass out, even though they're outdoors.
Yeah,
And it was windy.
sure was.
So the ref calls for the bell, and then the officials, they pour out, and they start to tend to Taker, and then they bring out a stretcher, and then Gonzalez takes it upon himself to attack a referee just out of nowhere. Was it their referee?
No. Yeah, I didn't understand what they were doing this whole thing.
I don't
They're
either.
trying to get him out the ring for some reason, but he wants to stay in the ring. While the Undertaker's getting stretchered out, he's insisting on staying inside the ring for some
Yes.
reason.
So then Taker's taken to the back while Gonzalez celebrates. And at this point, the crowd starts to chant Hogan's name.
They
Which
did.
isn't. Then all of a sudden, Taker's gong hits. He comes back out, whips Gonzalez's ass, and he dumps him out of the ring. And Gonzalez is chased off by security, who couldn't keep a straight face. And then Taker is declared the winner by disqualification. Ooh, lad, this was a rough one.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, clearly Gonzalez's fault because he didn't know
Yeah.
how to, he didn't know how to do anything.
It was Gonzalez's fault as far as the match, but the fucking whenever chloroform got introduced as an idea, somebody should have been bitch slapped.
Yeah, and they had Undertaker stretchered out because he got chloroform.
And then he just comes back out.
Well, that's because he's the dead man.
Yeah, but he can be the dead man in the back.
And it was even weirder that they started chanting Hogan.
Yeah, I guess they thought Hogan was going to come save the day. Fuck Taker.
I mean, they did teams sometimes, so I guess it's not too far-fetched to think Hogan would come out. I remember another match with them, and I think it's their next match or SummerSlam or whatever. It was a much better match, so just chalk this up as them learning each other.
So up next is Mean Gene. Mean Gene hopes that Heenan can get to an underwear salesman for some reason. And then Gene talks about the main event, Bret Hart versus Yokozuna. He talks about how dominant the monster from Japan has been. And then they show a clip of Duggan stepping up as Yoko's first challenger, and it doesn't end well for Hacksaw. Then they show a contract signing between Yoko and Hart, and it didn't end well for Hart either. And Gene says it's been a difficult and trying week for Bret Hart, and the odds makers are putting him as the underdog for the title match. And on top of that, he got knocked out by Lex Luger at the breakfast banquet thing. So instead of talking to him, we want to get the Hogan's perspective on the match. So Hogan said he just left Bret Hart's locker room. And all of the Hulkamaniacs are behind him. Hogan says lately, people are crossing the line. First, it was his bionic brother, Brutus, when they nailed him with the briefcase. Then they nailed Hogan when he was leaving the gym last night. I guess money can buy everything in this town. But the little Hulkamaniacs, they pushed me towards the ring. And you know, Bret Hart, a warning to the wise, brother. You're a brother. You're a Hulkamaniac. I want you to watch Yoko and Fuji like a cat, brother. I want you to watch their every move. And I also want you to know that me and the Hulkamaniacs are on your side. And as I looked in the eyes of Bret Hart, even I questioned the greatness of Hulkamania. That's why right now, Bret Hart, I'm issuing a challenge to either you or the Jap, brother. I want the first shot. But with me and all my Hulkamaniacs and the attitude that Bret Hart has, I guarantee you, dude, the WWF is staying right here in the good old US of A. What you gonna do?
And then a little bit more posing.
A little bit more posing. And he screeched. Or did a roar.
Of course.
So Yokozuna and Bret Hart. It's pretty wild when you think like the first time you see Bret was at WrestleMania 2 in a throwaway battle royal. And now he is main eventing as our world champion.
Yeah.
It starts off with some punches from Bret, but Yoko ultimately manhandles him. Then Bret ties Yoko's foot in the ropes and just starts assaulting him until Hebner gets him free. And it's pretty much all Yoko until occasionally Bret would use his quickness to catch Yoko. Then Hart started to do the 10 punches thing in the corner, but Yoko blocks it and then tries to toss him. Hart, he's holding on to the turnbuckle pad and he ultimately just yanks it off. We have an exposed turnbuckle now. So then Yoko, he blatantly tries to slam Bret's head into the exposed turnbuckle. Bret blocks it and then slams Yoko's head into it, all in front of Hebner, who didn't react at all. And then Bret awkwardly locks the sharpshooter onto Yoko, and it looks like the match is over. But Fuji throws salt in Bret Hart's eyes, and then Yoko simply covers Bret Hart, and he wins. Before Yoko can celebrate at all, Hogan is in the ring. He was just waiting. He was waiting with the second doink. You mind if I wait here, brother?
Yeah, I don't want to be too far from the ring.
Hogan tends to Bret, then Fuji starts talking shit to Hogan. Then Fuji says that Yokozuna issues a challenge to Hulk Hogan right then and there. And if Hogan has any balls at all, he'll accept. But Hogan, he's more focused on helping Bret. He wants to go to the back with him. Fuji then says,
Yeah, I need to help my friend, brother.
Yeah. Well, then Fuji says, well, how about this? Yoko says he's going to put the title on the line. Which Yoko didn't say shit. Yoko was too busy panting because he just had a fucking match. And he's out of breath. So Hogan, he looks around, not knowing what he should do. Then Bret Hart says, go beat him. Go beat him, Mr. Hogan. Beat the big bad man.
Yeah, now Bret Hart's his biggest
Yeah,
cheerleader.
go do it, Mr. Hogan. The Bret Maniacs are behind you. So Hogan gets in the ring. Yoko gets the jump on Hogan, or tries to when he gets in the ring. He holds Hogan's arms so Fuji can try to nail him with the salt. Hogan ducks the salt. Fuji hits Yoko instead. Hogan nails Fuji, clotheslines Yoko, then hits a leg drop onto Yokozuna for the fucking title win. And it's for the 5th time. And what do? We pose.
A lot of posing this night.
Hogan says into the camera, I told you not to mess with Mother Nature. And then fireworks go off.
And yes, all is right in the world of WWF because Hogan is champion again.
Okay.
The funny thing is, remember I kept alluding to this whole match? I kept bringing up this scenario specifically for The Rock and Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't saying that is the scenario. I'm saying that is a scenario you can do.
When you saw what would happen or what it would look like, it would probably be worse. Because that's what it looks like with psychology involved. They don't worry about that today.
It would have been funnier had Brett not given him the approval. Because, he's helping his friend. And he's getting called out. He's like, I'll put the title on the line. Then he, turns around. So he was going to go either way, obviously.
Right.
But it would have been funny if Bret Hart didn't give him the
Just start shaking his head. No, let's go to the back.
I need help.
Yeah.
No, just bring a ref out. Brutus. He'll keep you safe. But yeah, that's what an impromptu match does for you, I guess.
Well, we saw the birth of a feud between Mr. Perfect and Shawn Michaels. They faced each other at SummerSlam '93. Michaels won by countout with the help of his new bodyguard, Diesel. And then Perfect and Diesel would feud until Perfect leaves WWF. Money Inc., they eventually lose the tag titles to the Steiner brothers. And they do a back and forth with them, but ultimately lose the titles to the Steiners again. IRS and DiBiase, they decide to go to singles. And then DiBiase, he retires at the end of August. So goodbye, $1 Million Man. So we got 2 WrestleManias with that fucking theme song. I'm pissed. Undertaker continued his feud with Harvey Whippleman for some reason. And at one point, Whippleman, Gonzalez, and Mr. Hughes attacked Taker and Paul Bearer, and they stole the urn. And that set up a rest in peace match with Gonzalez, which was basically a no disqualification match. And that was at SummerSlam as well. Taker won. And then
was that the one with the sword?
Sure. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Gonzalez did end up chokeslamming Whippleman, and he turned face and became the greatest singles wrestler ever.
Sure.
Actually, no, he lost to Savage, and he was in a battle royal or something, and they didn't sign him again.
I remember his stint was pretty short.
Yeah. He was basically there just for Taker.
Yeah.
In later interviews, Hart would claim that he had a conversation with Vince McMahon where he was told that Hogan refused to drop the belt to him. Hogan would claim that during his conversation with Vince, a deal was made for Hogan to drop the belt to the top heel at the time, which was Yokozuna, and that would be at King of the Ring. So eventually all 3 of them would have a meeting where Vince McMahon basically sided with Hogan and denied ever saying anything Bret claimed to have been told. After beating Hogan with fire at King of the Ring, Yoko challenged any American to body slam him on the deck of the USS Intrepid, which is an aircraft carrier. Lex Luger answered the challenge, arriving in the helicopter, and he body slams Yoko, and that's when he changes his gimmick to the American Patriot with the Lex Express and shit.
Oh, who can forget that moment?
Right? And that's when Luger faces Yoko at SummerSlam for the title, but, wins by countout. And then Lex Luger and Bret Hart, they each earn a title shot at WrestleMania 10.
Which we'll see coming up.
Yep. But first, it is Hog Wild, which is notably the first pay-per-view after the formation of the NWO. The main event is Hollywood Hulk Hogan versus The Giant for the WCW title. Outside.
Uh-oh. I don't think that's going to go well for someone.
Yeah. The Outsiders, they face Sting and Luger. Rey Mysterio versus the Ultimo Dragon is also on the docket for the Cruiserweight title. We have Benoit versus Dean Malenko, and then Harlem Heat versus the Steiner Brothers for the tag team titles. And then Ric Flair versus Eddie Guerrero.
Sounds like a pretty good card.
Yep. And that's all next week. That and our typical Raw, SmackDown, and then we have the Royal Rumble. Yeah, next week should be full as well.
We're going to be cooking next week.
Yep.
And that was the retro review. If you if you agree with anything, let us know in the comments. If you disagree with anything, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, click on the iCard above to watch any other videos in the playlist. And until next time, Top Guys out.